Hi, Ingrid here from wellness2go.ca, and I'm going to talk about relationships. And the topic is self-sabotage, what we do in our relationships that would look like self-sabotage. So, in regards to self-sabotage, let's at least identify what it is. So self-sabotage is that you are doing something harmful in your relationship. You're doing something that is not working, and you are going out of your way without realizing it. I'm going to say it that way, without realizing it consciously, that you are kind of guaranteeing that your relationship is not going to work. So let's at least understand, what do I mean when I say self-sabotaging the relationship? When I think of what are the things we could do, or that we do as individuals, I wrote just a few things down, nothing too much, nothing extensive, but let's look at listening, right? So when we are listening to our partners, if we are already listening from a standpoint of fear or not trusting, so fear would be where we didn't think it was going to happen, and then now we're in this relationship, or we're in the point of a potential relationship and everything's looking really good, but we're afraid to lose it. We are really afraid. Is this, is the illusion going to end any minute? Meaning it's been too good to be true, and suddenly that's it. The relationship is over. It has no, there's no longevity. There's no hope for it. We could be listening from that programming. We could also be listening where we don't trust what the person is saying, just because we just don't trust life. Life is hostile. We see ourselves as always being victim or being victimized in some way by society. So the person is talking to you, and we're listening through that type of victim mentality. And what happens when we're listening when we're influenced by these types of listening, influenced in terms of listening with fear, we may give up our power in that moment, meaning we just, okay, yeah, you're right. And that still doesn't really resolve anything, because really you're not having real conversation. It's just, almost like there's assumptions in the listening. We're listening from the standpoint of where you're thinking that the person is somewhat of your enemy, right? And there's no trust, and so you're listening in the way that you believe they are already lying to you. They're deceptive, they're deceiving, they're doing. So you're going on defense mode, or some type of defense mechanism is kicking in, and again, you're not going to really be listening, right? So the listening that I'm talking about is not just about active listening. It's also about being interested. When we're interested, we're engaged. That interest creates a type of attitude, like, what are they talking? When I say what are they talking about, meaning you're valuing their opinion, or you're valuing their take on things, and that leads to intimacy in the relationship. That leads to building a relationship. It leads to passion in a relationship. So we're just looking at simply checking yourself in terms of listening. How are you listening that is nurturing and beneficial to your relationship? And then how are you listening that's more from a standpoint of sabotaging the relationship, making sure that this relationship is not going to work, right? So you want to weigh those two things. Take a look and see, how are you listening? Are you listening interested, or are you listening fearful and not trusting, and life is hostile, and this person is going to hurt me, and all of that, right? And those are different conversations. Yes, sometimes life is hostile. Yes, sometimes a person hurts you. Yes, but we're talking about how you want to get rid of the self-sabotage in your relationship. Another thing to take a close look at is how your viewpoints are. So you have an experience, both of you have the same experience, and they share it in their way and you share it in your way. And what I mean by that is each of you has your truth. Your partner or potential partner has their truth, and you have your truth. And it's very, first of all, you want to acknowledge that your truth is yours, like meaning you own it. And you also want to give the respect to their truth, that you're going to listen to them in terms of how they experienced it, even if it's different from you, right? And the way how you can test that is to see if you're giving enough silence when they're talking. You're not talking over them. I'm guilty of that. We're sharing an experience and we're talking over the other person, and especially if we're not in agreement, if we're not having the same experience, oh my goodness, we almost like start to talk, and you start having a conversation with both of you talking at the same time. So to avoid that, which can also lead to some type of self-sabotage, because we all value being listened to. So the way to support your relationship is to see yourself listening to your partner, even if you have different views, even if you experienced it in a different way. It's still in your best interest to allow them to talk. So look at those moments of silences, just like you want them to do for you, right? But we're not talking about their side of the equation. We're talking about your side of the equation. You check to see, am I listening? Am I giving enough space? And then how are you listening? Are you listening with fear and loss and it's all going to fall apart? Are you listening with lack of trust and deceit and deceptive awareness, thinking I don't trust them? So you want to see yourself listening in a way that is interested, engaged, the listening that leads to intimacy and passion and builds that romance into the relationship, because it changes your attitude towards how you see them. And this is another way to help you not self-sabotage your relationship, right? So taking a look at those examples, not going too far with them, just starting to observe, and start to make the changes as you start to see what's working, what's not working, right? Take your time to understand where your self-sabotage might be coming from, or even just to check. Maybe you didn't even know you were self-sabotaging, right? The relationship or your relationships. Just looking, these are things we want to look at, because if you're going through several relationships and they're not working to the point of becoming long-term relationships, then maybe there's a bit of self-sabotaging in there, and you want to take a look and to see, okay, what can I do differently? Talk to you soon.